Welcome back to the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to talk about how Director Clavell, Jacq, and Serrano all work together for Chairman Rose. Now, this may be a lot to swallow. This is a lot of moving parts, a lot of pieces, but I promise they do all connect. So, one thing I just wanted to talk about right from the very beginning is how Chairman Rose factors into all of this, because that's the biggest piece, right? That's the most like, what? Okay, so Macrocosmos is the company that Chairman Rose owns. The whole purpose of this company, really, whether it was their actual mission statement or just Rose's reason, was to find a plentiful energy source for Galar. You know, this is why Rose was using Eternatus, was basically as a battery for the Galar region, because he was like, hey, our energy will run out in like 3,000 years. And, you know, that's a long time, and that's what people try to tell him, but, you know, man's just looking out for the future. So it makes sense that he would be trying to find other ways to, you know, keep Galar running. And so Macrocosmos probably branched out to other regions. In fact, we know they branched out to other regions because in Detective Pikachu, we can see that there is a lab, and I'm referring to the movie here, not the video game. We can see that there's a lab that the characters visit, and in that lab, you can see Macrocosmos' logo on the screen. And what is found in this lab? Well, giant Torterras, you know, giant Pokemon, like the Dynamax phenomenon, which, you know, Dynamax phenomenon, that's connected to Eternatus, so that's what Rose is studying, is that energy, seeing if it is indeed a good source. So, again, he branches out to other regions. He does have his foot in other waters. You know, that's important to note because it makes it believable that he could in fact be in Paldea. I believe that he was in Paldea, specifically in Area 0, looking for an energy source. You know, just like he saw Dynamax and was like, ooh, there's probably something there. He probably heard of the Terrestrial phenomenon in the Paldea region and went, ooh, there's probably something there, and went down into Area 0 to study these rocks, or sent a team down, rather. I imagine Rose didn't do it himself. But these rocks he would find did indeed have their own, like, energy to them. You know, they basically, these rocks are not only seemingly alive, because it talks about how they're eating into the lab, and it talks about, or it shows rather, that they are like growing up trees and stuff, but these are the artificial sun that you can find in Area 0. If you notice, Area 0 is always daytime, no matter what time you go down there. This is because the rocks are in the water, and these rocks project light, just like how at the bottom of Area 0, they are a light source. And so this water, when it gets evaporated, it's got these minerals of these rocks into them, so it goes up in the clouds, creating an artificial sun. So Rose sees this power, he's wanting to research it, he sends his top scientists down there, and that includes Director Clavell, Jacq, and also Serrano. So the reason that we know Jacq and Director Clavell would definitely be here is because Jacq and Director Clavell did not always go into education. They used to be just researchers at a facility. Jacq did not say what facility, but he does state that, yeah, they work together at another facility. I imagine the reason he would not want to disclose what facility that is because he's probably a little ashamed that he worked for Macrocosmos when they turned out to be evil. You have to remember that Paldea is set after or Scarlet and Violet is set after the events of Sword and Shield. We know this because you can find Sonia's book in the Naranja or Uva Academy. So, you know, Jacques probably not one to say, oh yeah, you know that that corporation we have a book about that turned out to be like super evil and caused the darkest day? I helped. He doesn't want to say that. So, that's where we get here. Jacq and Director Clavell are in Area 0. I imagine Sada and Toro were also in Area 0 doing their own research on Paradox Pokemon, you know, creating time machines, that kind of stuff, and that is how Director Clavell met these two. Then you also have Serrano. Serrano and Director Clavell are said to be friends, and so it would make sense that they became friends by being down here in Area 0. Now, I think what happened is that one day while doing their research, they had a major breakthrough. They discovered that in Area 0 was a Pokemon that could potentially warp reality. It could, I mean, its power seems limitless. This Pokemon, can we even call it a Pokemon? It seems like a deity. This Pokemon is, of course, Tarapagos. So Clavell, Serrano, and Jacq see this Pokemon, and they instantly go, this could be the renewable energy source for the Galar region. But we're so in awe of this Pokemon. It's so beautiful. We can't let Rose get this Pokemon and just plug it up to a system and make it a battery. So they quit Macrocosmos, swear to each other that they're never going to say anything about this, and they move on with their lives. Jacq is so inspired by this that he even starts to wear hexagon glasses just as kind of a memory of Tarapagos. You do have in Scarlet and Violet this little reference to where when you're looking at a terrestrialized Pokemon, Hassel will point out that there's a hexagon on it, and then he even like makes this line about like, hey, you know, come to think of it, Jacq wears hexagon glasses. And this is because the game wants you to know there's some kind of connection between Jacq and Terrastol. And again, I imagine that Jacq has seen Tarapagos and was so in awe of it that he stylized his glasses after Tarapagos. Now, what Clavell and Jacq decide to do after this amazing encounter is they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with the world. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever had a moment like this, but when I was a kid, I saw an elk in the wild, and it was so graceful and so beautiful. It made me love the world, and it's like one of my favorite animals now, because seeing it in the wild is so different from seeing it in the zoo. You can tell me about your little encounter like this in the comments below. But really, that makes you reflect on life and makes you think like something like that really can have a huge impact on your life. That's exactly what I did for Jacq and Clavell. They were like, let's go into education and let's teach people about the beauty of the Pokemon world and how, you know, these creatures are just truly magnificent. So Clavell becomes the director of the Naranja or Uva Academy, and Jacq becomes the biology teacher. And this is important that Jacq would specifically choose a field in biology, because if you take his class, it's pretty much all about like friendship with your Pokemon. He talks about, hey, you can build your friendship if you have your Pokemon walking around with you. Hey, you can get Pokemon eggs, and you should take good care of them because that's the Pokemon trusting us with those eggs. You know, he clearly is so in awe of Pokemon, and it's from this encounter with Tarapagos. Now, meanwhile, Serrano also decides to go into education. And, you know, I imagine he's told Clavell and Jacq, yeah, no, that was truly beautiful, that Tarapagos. I want to teach people about Pokemon too. But what really happened when Serrano saw Tarapagos, he went, ooh, Rose wants to use this Pokemon as a battery, but it can do so much more than that. Why use this Pokemon to power a world when it's down here creating its own world? So Serrano creates the Blueberry Academy, but it's all to fund his project of creating his own world. That is, of course, the Terrarium, as we see in the DLC for Scarlet and Violet, specifically in the Indigo Disc. This is the world that is completely artificial. He's able to regulate temperatures and climates that allow for Pokemon from different regions to live. You know, we could see a Alolan Exeggutor live here. So this is exactly what Serrano's plan was to just create his own world with the power of Tarapagos. These little blocks that you find down there, they look like artificial versions of the stones that you can find in Area Zero. Because he modeled them after it, he still stayed studying Area Zero and using that research for his own game. So yeah, he left. He didn't want Rose to use Tarapagos as battery, but only because he wanted to use Tarapagos as the creator of his world. And I imagine that is when we will kind of see Serrano's full plan with Tarapagos. And there is definitely a lot more to this. Be keeping your eyes on Birdkeeper Toby's channel, because over there pretty soon we are going to be having a video go up on his channel that talks about Serrano and the Blueberry Academy. I don't want to give too much away, but this man is not all it seems, and we're going to talk about what's going to end up happening with him. So yeah, be sure to check out Birdkeeper Toby's channel, subscribe, like, all that stuff so you don't miss that video when it comes up. Be sure to also like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications on this channel so you don't miss our future videos as well. And be sure to comment if you had some kind of crazy cool experience that just made you reanalyze your life, like seeing an animal or a phenomenon like Aurora Borealis or something. Let me know in the comments below. I love stories like that. And until next time, I will see all of you later.